Why hello. So today I am going to be doing my fairy tale retelling February wrap-up video. And during the month of February I read a total of 4 books, which I'm pretty pleased with considering the fact that I was sick for 2 weeks of February and I'm still recovering right now. You can probably hear it in my voice. But yeah, I had a very bad cold, possibly like a touch of flu. I don't really know exactly what I had, but I do know I was sick and I wasn't doing a lot of reading during that time. So to have read 4 books to me is an accomplishment. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the books that I managed to read during February. The first book that I picked up in February was actually one that I was finishing from January, and it is Heir of Fire, the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series by Sara J. Maas. As most of you guys know, this was a reread for me. I am rereading the series up until the 5th book, where it is all brand new material to me. So I wanted to, you know, re-immerse myself in the world and remember all of the stuff that I'd forgotten before finally completing the series. And this is actually my favorite book in the series so far. It was my favorite book when I first read the series, and it is still my favorite book as of now, but I do still have like 3 or 4 more books to read. So we'll have to see if that still holds up in a few months. I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I just really enjoyed this world and I loved going back to it. And I really loved the turn that the story took in this book. And yeah, I know a lot of people didn't, but I did, and I'm excited to continue reading. The next book that I picked up in February is Hunted by Megan Spooner, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that I was very excited to read because Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite fairy tales. This story follows a young woman named Yeva, and it's very similar to the original Beauty and the Beast story, wherein the female character goes to rescue her father from a beast and then encounters said beast, and then everything just kind of takes off from there. I really enjoyed the Russian setting of this story, but apart from that, I just really couldn't get behind it, to be honest. The entire story, in my opinion, was very bland. The writing, the characters, the pacing, I was just waiting for all of it to get better, and it really never did. It picked up a little bit towards the end, but it did not have the explosive ending that I was hoping might be able to save it, and I really just didn't end up enjoying this at all. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and that was being kind of generous. The next book that I picked up in February is Sea Witch by Sara Henning, and this is a retelling of the Sea Witch character in Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Little Mermaid. Now, most of us know this character from the Disney version of The Little Mermaid, where she plays Ursula, and Ursula is one of my all-time favorite villains of all time. So I was really excited to read her, or rather the Sea Witch's origin. I really loved the Danish seaside setting and I loved the writing. I thought it was very well written. The characters were also very interesting, and overall I just think this is a very well written story that definitely gives you sympathy for the villainous Sea Witch character. You get to see what she went through and the choices she made and the things that happened to turn her into who she is today, and I just felt like it was so good. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. There's actually going to be a sequel, which I feel kind of mixed about because I felt like this was just perfect on its own, but of course I'm gonna pick it up. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good read. And the final book that I picked up in February was definitely my favorite of the bunch, apart from Heir of Fire, but out of all the fairy tale retellings, it was definitely my favorite, and it is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. So as I said in my TBR for this month's books, I am not a fan of Snow White. It's never been my favorite story. It's never been my favorite Disney movie. I don't know, I just was never very impressed with it. However, this story really takes the origin and the essence of that story and it makes it something completely different, but it also stays true to its roots, if that makes sense. The story is told in dual perspective of Lynette, a young princess, and Mina, the princess's stepmother. So you guys know it's like the Snow White evil stepmother characters coming into play, but this story is so different because it goes back into Mina, the stepmother's past, and it shows you how she came to be the person that she is today, which isn't even a bad person the way that the Disney film portrays the evil stepmother. She's just very misunderstood. So the story shows you past and present perspectives of Mina as well as Lynette's perspective as she is growing up in the kingdom under her father's careful watch because her mother died when she was a baby and he's just incredibly overprotective and obsessed with keeping her safe. I loved the writing in this book so much. It was so incredibly well written, and it was written in my favorite verse, which is third person past tense. I just really enjoy reading that perspective. It flowed really well with descriptions of prose here and there, and it had really interesting dialogue, and I just like loved the writing. The writing was honestly 5 stars to the writing. I also loved the female-female romance that took place in the story. While a part of me was like, oh my gosh, give me more, another part of me really felt like this story's focus was on the relationship between Mina and Lynette, and I really loved that mother-daughter relationship that this story really centers around. The only cons I really have is that it was a little rushed in places to the point where it was like a little unrealistic, but that honestly did not diminish my enjoyment of this book by much. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend it. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know if you have read these books, and if you have, what you thought of them, if you liked them, if you didn't like them, all of those things that you know. I just want to know. I would also love to know what you guys read in February, because that's always good to know. And yeah. All right guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.